Hey everybody, welcome to the Tom Parsley channel. I'm Tom, and just like Parsley, we get into a little bit of everything. So what are we going to get into today? So you can tell behind me all the white stuff and all the cold weather gear is that it is winter. It's about midwinter. We've got about a couple of weeks to summer, go back, spring. A couple of weeks, go back to the first day of winter. So we're about halfway through. The sun is starting to get a little bit higher up in the sky, so we know that, and it's also out a little bit longer. It's out from sunrise to sunset. It's out about 10 hours, and the sun's angle is starting to get a little bit higher, so it's starting to get a little warm. There's the sun right there. It's towards the end of the day, so it's a little low in the sky, but it's actually one of the warmer days we've had for the past couple of weeks. It's 32 degrees. Look, no gloves. It's 32 degrees, which is just about at freezing. We got snow. We got all this snow about 2 weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it's been so cold. It's been 20 degrees, 15 degrees. At night, it's been like 5, 3, sometimes 0 Fahrenheit. This is all Fahrenheit. For you Celsius guys out there, you're gonna have to convert, sorry. So today is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is almost warm. So we're gonna take a walk through the woods here. We're gonna do a little winter walk and see what we come up with, because Mother Nature's starting to wake up now. It's midwinter, the sun's out for a little bit longer. The sun's rays are getting a little bit higher, so everything's starting to wake up. So we're going to see what we could see. So come on with me and see what we get into. So I decided not to go with snowshoes today, because even though we got about, I'd say about a foot of snow, just about, if it was fresh snow, then yeah, I would definitely do the snowshoes. But there's a thick layer of ice on the top surface, and the snow is slowly melting. So even though I am post-holing, here you can see here. So I am kind of post-holing a little bit, but it's not that deep. And gear check, I've got sorrel boots, but these aren't sorrels. These are Kombus is the brand. But they have this thick felt liner and rubber on the bottom and leather on top. It's perfect for these conditions that we have right now. And there's some tracks, cross-country ski tracks, and it was just, you can see my tracks over there. There was just saw some deer tracks. So if I see those deer tracks, I'll come up again. And we're going down that way. We're basically following the cross-country ski trail. So one of the best things about walking in winter is that. You hear that or not hear that? That is the sound of silence being out in the woods in winter. It's really quiet, unless you're near a road noise or a highway. It's really quiet. There's no bugs. There's no mosquitoes. Yeah, it's a little cold, but it's okay. It's 32 degrees. This is doable. If it was 20 degrees and windy, then we'd need a little bit different gear. But I got a wool hat on. I got my windbreaker on. I got my gloves in my pocket in case I need them. And I got this good Columbia outerwear jacket, and I've got some insulating layers on underneath, but not too much, because I know that as I'm walking, I'm going to heat up. So I'm starting cold, because I know as I'm walking, I'm going to heat up. There's some tracks over here. Let's go check them out. So I'm not a very good tracker, and these tracks are old, but these look like could be, there are feral cats in this park, so that could be cat tracks. It could be, they go off kind of in that direction, and there's more tracks to go this way. And this snow it's not fresh snow, so these tracks have frozen already, so they're not the best. I did see some deer tracks back over there, and then these tracks are really easy because those are cross-country ski tracks, and I'm trying really hard to not walk in those tracks because I don't want to wreck. If somebody's going to come by and cross-country ski again, I don't want to wreck what they've already done. All right, so let's see how Mother Nature is waking up. So one way I know that is not cat is because cats walk with their claws in. This is something that walked with their claws out. So this could either be, these tracks over here could either be someone's dog, maybe the person who's cross-country skiing brought their dog with them, or it could be a fox. There's no coyotes Where I am here, there's no coyotes here yet, or at least I haven't heard any, I haven't heard them, and I haven't heard of any stories of coyotes here, but it's definitely canine because canines walk with their claws out, cats walk with their claws in. So if it was feral cat, it wouldn't have those claw marks in the snow. So fun fact. Now all these trees behind me, these are all deciduous trees, and they're all oak trees because the forest that we're in is a predominantly oak forest. So here, let me turn you around so you can see what we're talking about here. So these are all oak trees, all deciduous oaks. There's a few pines here and there, but this is mostly oaks all the way around. We'll do a little 360 here. And these are all oak trees, all oaks. Now, if we had some maple trees in here, that would be awesome, because if we had maple trees in here, now is the time, or in a couple of weeks, to start drilling into those trees, especially sugar maple, Acer, I forget what it is. I'll put it down right over here. It's the New York State tree is sugar maple, and sugar maples are what we get maple syrup from. So we would tap those trees, we'd drill into the tree, put a little spout with a bucket to collect all the sap, take all that sap back to our sugar house or wherever we'll make boiling down the sap, and we would start a fire with wood or whatever we got, and we would boil that sap down to evaporate all the water, because what's left is sugar, and that sugar is what you call maple syrup. And it takes 40 gallons of maple sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. And now you know why maple syrup is so expensive, because it is very labor and fuel intensive. I've seen it done, and it takes days of boiling the sap down to get all that moisture out, boil off all that water, and then what you're left with is maple syrup. You might have a sugar maple in your street, because sugar maples are very good showcase trees. Like if someone has a big tree in their front yard and it's a maple tree, 9 times out of 10 it's a sugar maple. And who knows, go up to their door and say, hey, it's sugar maple, do you mind if I tap this tree for syrup, for sap? And they may say yes, and all you have to do is just give them a little thing of maple syrup when you're done. Sugar maples are a little hard to identify. The 2 major maples that we have here on Long Island are Norway maples, which are invasive, and they're introduced. They turn yellow in the fall, so they're easy to identify, and their leaf is a very unique looking leaf. And the sugar maple, if you think of the Canadian flag, that maple leaf that's on the Canadian flag, that is a sugar maple leaf. And it usually turns like a fire scarlet red in the fall, but so do other maples. So I don't like to use color to identify. You identify from the bark, you identify from the leaf, and then you know for sure that you have a sugar maple. So if you have a couple of neighbors on your street that have sugar maples, you may have a little sugar maple production company ready and raring to go. So, but here where I am, there are no sugar maples. It's all oaks. You could tap an oak, but it doesn't work. So why now in February is it good maple syruping time? Because the tops of the trees are starting to warm up from the sun, because the sun's rays. So the sun behind us over here, I told you the angle is starting to get a little bit higher as we get further towards March 21st, the equinox. So now, and with 10 hours of sunlight, that sun kind of going up is warming up all the trees, and the trees are waking up. And what they're doing is they're sending sap up the tree, up to the top. And then at night, when it gets really cold, all that sap comes right down. So every day the sap's coming up, down, up and down, up and down. It's called the sap running season. And now we're starting to get into the sap running season. And by you drilling into that sugar maple and putting the spout, you are tapping, there you go, tapping into that up and down motion where the sap is constantly running up and down, and then it's going to run out of that spout. And you could collect a fair amount of sap without harming the tree, and you could get yourself some maple syrup. So real maple syrup is 100% from maple trees. Sugar maples predominantly, but all maples produce sap. It's just how much sugar they have. And I believe the Norway maples you could tap also. It just doesn't have as much sugar as a Norway maple would have. So fun fact, so that other, what's called pancake syrup, they don't call it maple syrup because it's pancake syrup. It's just sugar, corn syrup with imitation maple seasoning, flavoring in it. So no good. Get real maple syrup. It's worth it. Here's one of our native pine trees that has succumbed to the southern pine beetle. It's dead all the way up to the top. And there's a lot of pine trees in this forest that has been killed by that southern pine beetle. Why? Because the last couple of years, our winters have been fairly mild. It hasn't gotten this cold in a long, long time. So they have kind of moved up. They have found all these pine trees over here, and they have just annihilated all of these pine trees. Left a lot of dead, standing pine trees, which is bad for forest fires. But because these past 2 weeks or so have been frozen, 20 degrees or so, the ground has been frozen. We're hoping that all this freezing weather has knocked down the spotted lanternfly larva, which is an invasive, the southern pine beetle larva, because it's been so cold, and all of the ticks. So hopefully this frozen freezing has killed a lot of these insects that are harmful to us as we get out in the woods, and also our trees. So hopefully it's been cold enough, or will stay cold enough, that all of these insects will just freeze and not come back. It's not forecasted to get above freezing for the next week or so. So it's still going to be cold for a while now. All right, let's continue. So back over here, these are all blueberries. All of these low plants in here are all blueberries. And if you look closely, I don't know if you could see, let's try to zoom in a little bit over here. See the buds? They're starting to swell a little bit, right over there. Right there. See that? Those buds are starting to swell a little bit because they're getting the energy from the sun. The sun's rays are staying out a little bit longer, and they're starting to wake up all of these plants. So the plant buds are starting to swell a little bit, getting ready to open, because in about 2 months, those buds are going to be open, and this entire forest all back here is going to be filled with blueberries that are blooming. Leaves are starting to come out. So Mother Nature's starting to wake up a little bit. Yeah, I had to put my gloves on. It was getting a little cold because as that sun goes down, the temperature starts to drop a little bit also. But I'll tell you what, standing right here in the sun, my black pants are soaking up that solar energy, and I can feel it on my back. It feels great because it is getting a little cold as that sun goes down. So let's continue on and see what other kinds of signs of nature waking up that we can see. Too bad about that pine beetle destroying all of our pine trees, because this forest, about 5-6 years ago, for every, 4 or 5 oak trees, there's at least one pine tree. And now I see one. That's about it. The rest of the pine trees are all dead. So that one living pine tree is right there. But we're going to take a look at this right over here, this fallen pine tree, because even though the pine trees are down, they still provide some use. I don't want to walk over the cross-country ski, so let's walk over here to this down pine tree. And one good thing about going off trail in winter, especially with all the snow, no ticks. So this was a fairly big pine tree that fell over. And you know what I always say whenever we see a tree downed, if nobody was around when it fell, that's right, did it make a sound? So, I just love being out here because you don't hear anything. It's so quiet, it's so still, it's great. Okay, so back to the pine tree over here. So this was a pretty big pine. I don't have any tools with me, but if we were to hack in here to the center part, because trees have, the tree itself, then the outside wood is called the sapwood, and the inside middle is called the heartwood. So on pines, the heartwood, so it would be really deep in the middle over here, is where we would find, if I could pull some of this away here. I don't have any tools with me, but the deeper we go in, we would be able to see what's called fatwood. Now, fatwood is very unique. It smells like, if you know what turpentine smells like, turpentine is made from essentially pine needles or pines. That's how it originally was extracted. It's sort of a natural spirit. It's not really natural, but it's derived from pine. The fatwood, because of the turpentine, because of the oils that are still present in the pine, makes it very, very flammable. And because it's very flammable, it makes it an amazing fire starter. So again, if you were out in the woods here and like I have to stay here overnight, I got to start a fire. Hopefully you have some other tools with you to start a fire, but if you could know where to find fatwood, you'll be able to start a fire, no problem. Usually there's more pine trees down, but it's all covered in snow. I'm going to do a separate video on harvesting fatwood and starting a fire with fatwood, but I just wanted to kind of show you this pine tree over here that has been downed, and all of this, the center, the stump, even the branches are loaded with fatwood. So we're going to do a separate video on just how to harvest fatwood and how to use it. So you kind of tell the difference. This is an oak tree stump. You could tell by the grain itself. This is not fatwood, and there is a dead pine over there, and that, when it eventually falls over, that will also have fatwood in it. Whoa, we're going into uncharted territory here. The cross-country skier turned around here. Maybe they didn't know where this trail went, but I know where it goes. We're going to take a look at that pine stump right over there, see if we can find any fatwood. So, again, I don't have any tools to hack this apart, but right in the middle here would be fatwood. And how you know it's fatwood is that it smells like turpentine. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but turpentine has a very unique smell. And once you smell that turpentine, and it's kind of thick and dense, and kind of waxy, oily, you know you found fatwood. And there's a whole branch of pine right down here that if we hack that apart, we'd probably be able to find some fatwood in there too. So there's a few more pine trees here as I'm looking around. There's, I'll turn you around in a minute, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pine trees here, and the rest are all oaks. But here, I'll turn you around so you can see. There's a pine tree there, and 2 really tall ones right over here. Now all this area right down in here, kind of over here and back there a little bit, is a wetland. And the wetlands drain into Westbrook. We've been to Westbrook Pond, we've been to Westbrook. It kind of goes under Sunrise Highway over Connecticut State Park. And one of the things in wetlands, I'm going to wait a couple of weeks. I'm going to make a video because we're going to go out to look for them. But there is an organism, a plant out there called skunk cabbage. And skunk cabbage, I got shade in my face. There we go. Skunk cabbage is really cool because it actually creates an exothermic reaction. Exothermic gives off heat, and that heat that it's giving off is actually melting all of this snow and ice around it, because the skunk cabbage is one of the first flowers to open up and provide pollen for all of the insects. Honeybees, even though they're not native, but honeybees will go there, and other insects that need pollen will go to the skunk cabbage, and that's one of the first flowers, native flowers, to open. There are a lot of introduced flowers, like camellias will bloom now, but they're not native. Witch hazel will bloom now, but the witch hazel that's blooming is not native to the northeastern U.S. The witch hazel that blooms now is native in the Ozarks and Missouri, not native here. So we're going to make another video on skunk cabbage and wetlands once all the snow kind of goes down, just a little bit more, so making the walking a little bit easier. So let's see what else we can see here. So one of the other interesting things here in winter is that you notice that the snow is starting to melt right around this tree. See the gap there? Because this tree, this bark, is kind of a darker color, and the sun goes kind of like this. This is west over here, and south is going to be over here, and east is going to be up over there. So as the sun hits this tree and hits the bark will absorb that energy because it's a darker color, and will slowly radiate that heat back. And as that heat is radiated out, it's going to melt that snow. So that's why sometimes you'll see, if you're walking in the woods, you'll see trees with just a ring around it of no snow or no ice, because the tree will absorb the solar radiation and re-radiate it out afterwards to melt all that snow. Pretty cool, right? Nature is cool. Here's another amazing fire starter in case you're in an emergency. This is a birch. This is birch bark over here. Even though it's dry and crumbly, that's okay, because there is an oil inside this birch bark that even when it's wet, it will light on fire. And it is one of the best emergency fire starters out there. Even as you're walking along, you need some fire starter. Just grab a little bit and just put it in your pocket and hold on to it, because birch bark is one of the best fire starters around. And there's a whole tree that kind of fell down over here that's just covered in that birch bark that makes really good fire starter. All right, sun's getting down a little bit lower. It's getting a little cooler out here. So we're gonna end the video here, and I want to remind you about the 3 things. Remember those 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. I want to thank you for coming along on the journey. This is Tom from the Tom Parsley channel. Reminding you again, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell all your friends about the channel. We try to drop a video once a week, usually on Wednesdays. We do a long form and in shorts, and then we chop up all of our long forms into shorts and put them out there on all the socials. So I'm on all the socials: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Just look for Tom Parsley, and I'll see you all in the next video.